everyone! Today we're going to be sketching a portrait in a warm-up style that I've been working in for the last 2 months or so. I started suddenly drawing portraits about 9 months ago, and really I just cannot stop. I used to hate drawing people. I pretty much only drew plants, animals, abstract things, and then suddenly last September my brain was only interested in drawing portraits. I drew one, and then I honestly haven't really drawn much else since then. So in this portrait today, I'll be using my favorite Prismacolor pencils in Spanish orange, pink, and violet. Super basic colors that come in the pack of 24. Literally the only color pencils that I've ever had. I'm a little sad because I use them so much now that they're starting to get a little short, and I know eventually I'll have to switch to other colors in my pack, and I'm sad about that. I started doing these 30-minute warm-up exercises for my more conceptual portrait work about 2 months ago. I have a tendency to rely too heavily on erasing because my brain doesn't trust that I'm going to do a good job, even though I've been drawing for almost 20 years. So I started doing these warm-up exercises using only things that cannot be erased, like colored pencil, any kind of pen, marker, etc., to force my brain to trust itself and know that it knows what it's doing. I started using the yellow, pink, purple combination after watching a tattoo artist on TikTok, I think, maybe YouTube, Facebook, somewhere on the internet, draw a design that was freehand on somebody's leg using yellow, and then they went over it in pink or orange or something, and then blue and purple Sharpies to finish it off. And I thought it was so cool how they were able to just loosely sketch something out, and by the time they got to the darkest color, it looked so good and good enough to be able to do a whole permanent art piece after that. And just the confidence that it took going into that was really impressive to me. And then I kind of just latched on to that method because it forces me to embrace all of my mistakes and still get a sense of accuracy that I need by layering the colors and giving my brain time to think about what it's doing. Sometimes I will use just a straight ballpoint pen and not work in all of the layers, but today I was feeling anxious, so I didn't have the courage to work with just a ballpoint pen only and wanted to ease myself into this one. My yellow, pink, purple method kind of gives me like just enough time to fuck around with it before actually committing and trying to make the drawing look good. It always looks a little rough to start, and I get a little scared in the beginning until maybe like halfway through the yellow piece of the sketch, and then it's like, okay, cool, like this is fine. I like this. I can keep going, and I'm not gonna absolutely hate it in the end, or at least I'll learn a lot of stuff from it. Spoiler, I really love this one. I'm recording this audio like 3 days after I drew this, and I still love it. I just stare at it and think, wow, I did a really good job with this one. Good job, brain. Does anyone else leave drawings that you like out so you can get a little boost of serotonin throughout the day as you walk by it, or is it just me? So I always start out with yellow and sketch out the general face shape. If I don't sketch out the face shape and start with the internal features like eyes and nose and mouth and all of that, I'll make the face way too big, and then I can't add any hair. And I'm working on like a 6x9 inch little sketchbook here, so I don't have a lot of room to put in details anyway. This makes it so that I control myself and don't go overboard. Then I'll like add in some general placement markers for where the features are going to go, like where the eyes, nose, ears, lips, etc. are going to fall on the face. I learned this in like middle school. I think, in a drawing class, and I've just, anytime in the rare chance prior to September that I have done a portrait, this is the method that I've used. Maybe in the future I'll learn some different ones. Music also heavily influences how my artwork comes out. I need to be jazzed about the music I'm listening to in order to do good work. Usually I pick a playlist first and then a portrait reference and kind of let that guide the drawing session, but I was really struggling to choose a playlist on this particular day. So I did end up finding this little like 90s-esque portrait and then went with a playlist to pair with that, like a 90s playlist on Spotify called quote unquote cool 90s mom jams. It's got like Strawberry Wine and Jolene, some TLC, Madonna, Cherry, all the 90s classics. There's some repeats on it, which is kind of a bummer, but overall stellar playlist that this person put together. I'm going to say that maybe 30% of the success of this portrait came from this playlist. I usually start drawing the facial features that my eyes want to focus on the most, but this time I was too scared to start with the facial features after I got the head shape down and I had to do the hair first. I was honestly just avoiding doing the face because it had been a minute since I've drawn and I wasn't ready to tackle it yet. But when I do tackle the facial features, I often start with the nose. I think that it's because noses intimidate me a little bit. They're kind of a weird face shape to get right in a portrait, so maybe I subconsciously want to start with the scariest bit first. I don't know. Then it always feels most natural to kind of sketch in the lips. Maybe because I'm going top down, like nose and then on to mouth. I don't know. When I first started doing these portraits, I would try to make them more realistic than illustrative and really drive in that Cupid's bow. But then there's this portrait that I was referencing where the person in it had very square lips and almost no Cupid's bow, which made for a very like squared off look. And I really loved how it came out. Is one of my favorite sketches that I've done in this kind of style. I loved everything about it. And now I just do that instead because every time I do it, instead of a more realistic method, I like it so much more. And I think that's ultimately what matters at the end of the day. So I just continue to do that. And then finally, I put the eyes in. I draw some extra guidelines up from the nose to get my tear duct locations and kind of eyeball the point where the eye should end. And then I usually start with drawing the upper eyelid and then the lower. I add in the little outline between the tear duct and the actual eyeball, and then the color part of the eye, like the iris, and then finally the pupils, which are honestly so hard. Half of the time I end up either making my sketches wall-eyed or cross-eyed. I don't know if those are the technical terms for it, but they look either one of those two ways. So adding the pupils makes me very nervous, and I usually really double and triple check where I'm going to put them before adding them in, because for some reason I always get them a little wonky. And then I add in some additional details around the eye, like some like shading on the bottom part and the like little line for the eyelid just above the eye, kind of mark in the eyelashes of where those are going to be, and then I'll add those in purple later on to make them more defined. I make some guidelines for where the nose bridge leads up into the eyebrows and start to kind of sketch out a rough shape for those. after drawing so many portraits and looking at so many faces, people have so many different eyebrow shapes. It's kind of crazy. And at this point, I've pretty much got the face sketched out, so I can start filling in the hair. I really love drawing wavy hair. It's so fun. A lot of illustrators that I follow have a way of blocking in the hair more illustratively, and my brain just cannot do that yet for some reason. My brain has to draw every strand, otherwise it doesn't know where the flow of the hair is going to be, and it doesn't have enough detail to look like hair. It just looks like they're wearing a helmet, which isn't the vibe that I'm going for. And drawing every strand in this way I don't hate, so I just continue doing it. I used to draw these things called Zentangles and still do sometimes, which is a type of abstract art where you kind of just doodle and fill in a page without being too concerned about making it into anything. It's usually very like flowy, lots of different line weights and textures and stuff like that. And the way that I do hair kind of reminds me of that. So it's kind of like blending an old piece of the artwork that I do with the portraits that I'm currently doing. Now that the yellow is done and everything's carved out and in place, it's time to go back in with the pink and start to solidify more details. If I've made any mistakes with the yellow, this is my medium level chance to fix it before adding in the purple, which makes things a lot darker. I kind of use the pink as a mid-tone color and use it to add some like shading and more details like that before going back in with the purple. And in order to make the purple look closer to black, you kind of need the pink layer to build upon. Otherwise, the colors look a little wonky. That's more true if you're using markers and using like yellow and then pink and then a blue or a purple marker. You need the pink underneath it to blend with the blue to make a blacker color. But I always do a combination of yellow and pink in the hair to try and add some dimension, but it's very rare that I'll use purple anywhere in the hair. It gives too much contrast, and I want to reserve that color for adding contrast to the facial features instead, because that's what I want to highlight in the end of it. And I always feel like the pink yellow hair combination looks better than adding purple into it. Then it just gets to be a little too much. I also sharpen my pink and purple pencils a lot to make sure that they stay sharp and I can get very precise details, which is probably why they're getting so short now. But even the yellow has gotten so short over the couple months that I've been doing this. And now we're on the last step, adding in all of the purple. I learned from this video that my camera will shut off after about 20 minutes of filming without giving me any kind of warning. Usually it beeps. It doesn't do that when you hit the video limit, so that's cool. So I get the nose, lips, eyebrows, and part of an eye done before that happens. Now in the future, I'll obsessively check my camera to make sure that it's still filming, and instead of just zoning out and getting into my artwork and forgetting to check my camera. And this is the pretty lady. I love it so much. It'll definitely be one that I'll look back at in the future to pump myself up when I'm feeling like I can't draw properly. Thanks everyone for watching. Bye.